The new Tim Holtz release from Sizzix is here. I am going to be walking you through my project. I'm not going to be going into too much detail because I am going to be creating a class, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. But I definitely wanted to give you some inspiration and show you how versatile these dies are, just in case you were on the fence. All right, let's get into it. Before I get into the actual project, I wanted to give you a little insight on how I went about creating the project. So these die sets are supposed to be foundational pieces for your craft projects. So I went around and grabbed all of the things that I have been hoarding, saving for the right project, not hoarding. And trust me, I have a lot. So I went into my Idea-ology, all of my metals and my dies and stamps and everything Tim Holtz. After I gathered all of the packages, then I went into each of them and pulled out all of the individual pieces like the ephemera, the metals, the bugs, whatever it was that I thought I was going to be using. That way I have it all in one place, and then I divided it up into different sections, different little bins, so that as I was making the project, then I could just grab from each of those bins. Then what I did was I die cut out all of the dies, even the ones I knew I wasn't going to use. I needed to have a look at each die individually so that I can get a better idea of what I wanted to create. Once I had my idea, I decided to sit down and create some backgrounds, and then the project just came together. And it definitely wasn't that easy, but that's the simplest way I can put it. The ideas just kept flowing, and then once I knew it, my project was complete. So I altered an Idea-ology box and then created 3 projects to put into it, and I'm going to go through each project individually, but here's just an overview. I created 5 individual slide cards. I altered a dome display. I also created an album using one of the folder dies. We're going to take a look at the box first, and again, this is an Idea-ology box. I altered it by adding some Tim Holtz paper. I added lots of detail with some stamping, and I used a few different distress colors to get that rusty burnt look. I added a handle in the front, and I added some washi tape on the top of the box. I think my favorite part of my project is this display dome. It took me several attempts to get the look that I wanted inside of the glass. And again, I'm not going to share too many of the techniques because I am going to save a lot of them for the class. I took one of the backgrounds I had created and die cut out one of the slides from the Specimen die set. I added a little mushroom, some little greenery, and the little magnifying glass looking thing, and then also a little metal bug. Here's the part of the project that took me the longest. I had to redo this glass dome several times, and I'll give you a little hint without giving away too much. To get that effect in the dome, it is more than just alcohol ink, but I absolutely love the effect. Now we're going to take a look at the slides. These were so fun to create. I took some backgrounds that I had created in the past. I die cut out all of the slides as well as the backing, and I put some paper on the back, some pattern paper from Tim Holtz. I used an entomology stamp set and die cut out all of the little bugs. I did some sewing on each and every single one of them. Basically all of the techniques are the same. I slightly changed it up a bit to get a little variation between all of the different cards. I used some rub-ons, and I also added some splatters for a little bit more interest. And I also did a little bit of stamping on each of the cards. Now here's the album that I created for the box, and I probably had the most fun creating this album. I used Distress Heavy Stock and the Numbers embossing folder, and then I just used some distress sprays and splattered them all over randomly to create the color on the project. I took a few of the folders and I sewed them together to create the album. I also did a little bit of stamping and of course added some splatters. Now for the inside of the album, I knew that I wanted to take out all of that Idea-ology stuff that I've been hoarding and keeping for the right project and use it up in this album, and I did just that. I probably couldn't have added any more details to this album. It was getting so full, and I had so much fun layering all of the embellishments and the ephemera onto all of the different pages. And as you can see, each page is different, full of detail, and I just loved creating this album. I wanted to show you some of the details on a few of these pages. As you can see, I used, again, a lot of the Idea-ology stuff that I had in my stash. I did a lot of sewing on each page. I used a lot of the remnant rubs, some Idea-ology hardware heads. I did a lot of splattering, of course, and I used a lot of frosted crystal on all of the different embellishments just to add a little bit more texture to the album. I don't typically write blog posts, but I had to for this one because there was so many photos and you could check it out. The link is in the description box. Even if you end up not purchasing the new dies, I hope that my project gives you a little bit of inspiration to bust out all of those supplies that you've been collecting and start creating with them. If you create something inspired by my project, please tag me on social media. I would love to see it. If you loved this project, I know that you are going to love all of the techniques that I share in this short playlist right here.